Hi, I'm Dr. Gwen. Welcome to my channel where I curate tools, share mindsets, and promote habits to help neurodiverse individuals thrive. If this is an interest to you, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. In this video, I interview Alex Johnson, Admissions and Business Development Director of Scenicview Academy, a nonprofit school for young adults with autism and learning disabilities in Provo, Utah. With a focus on living, working, and thriving, Scenicview is all about empowering adults to live their most fulfilled lives. Alex and I explore the power of choice that opportunities provide and how experience is the best teacher. Listen to the full interview to understand Scenicview's approach to developing lifelong systems that promote autonomy and how they help their students find joy in their personal journey to independence. For more detailed information about this interview, check out the timestamps below. Hi, Alex. Welcome. How are you?
I am good, Gwen. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and talk about Scenicview.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So why don't we start with you telling us about yourself?
Okay. So I'm Alex. I have an LCSW degree. So I started as a therapist working in residential treatment centers. I worked at Provo School. I'm from the Utah area, so this is my hometown here, where Scenicview is located in Provo. And I received my degree from Brigham Young University and started working in residential treatment and just really jumped in, into Provo Canyon School. I also have some experience working at the Utah State Prison, and I've just brought that to bear. I've become an admissions director in the last year and a half at Scenicview. Mm-hmm. And so I'm using my skills in that way. At home, I have 3 young kids, 3 boys, and it's a handful. Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun. We love it. And one of my personal interests is men's mental health. Mm-hmm. So I'm bringing that to bear as a parent. I'm sure failing spectacularly, but doing the best I can. And that's something I studied during my master's program, and I'm interested in doing on the side as a private therapist, working with men. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah. That prison work is so interesting. I didn't realize that about you. We have that in common. In my practicum years, I was placed in a residential outpatient kind of boot camp program. And then I did around in solitary confinement in Riverside. And I really felt like early on in my training anyway, I really cut my clinical teeth there. Yeah. Because you get to see and really, it will. And it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. And it really opened my eyes about how formative our early years are, and our relationships with our parents and our communities. And anyway, so offline, we'll talk more offline. Definitely. Yeah, I love it. But it does give you a really nice clinical landscape and background to seeing what people need and seeing what they're coming to you with. Yeah. So you said you're the admissions director over at Scenicview. And so really looking at who's appropriate for your program and if the program's right for that person, right?
Yes. Yeah, actually
go ahead. Yeah.
My full title is Admissions and Business Development. And so it's been exciting. Informally, I'm just really trying to push Scenicview forward we've been around for 20 years, since 2001. And so I'm really just trying to push us into that next phase of growth where we have a wonderful program and great campus and great resources that we're looking to expand and grow. And it's really exciting. So that's a part of it that I really enjoy, along with, of course, the meeting the families and screening the applicants and helping with that process.
Nice. Well, maybe what we could do now, Alex, is get into Scenicview and can you describe Scenicview Academy for people?
Yes, I can. Scenicview is a nonprofit organization that is founded on the principles of helping neurodiverse young adults increase their level of independence. So we serve 18 to 30-year-olds, and we try to create a college campus where students can, we call them students there, where they can be empowered to grow in independent living skills. We have really comprehensive independent living curriculum that we teach on this campus. And it's real life experience. It's usually a 2 to 3 year process. So almost like a college length experience too, where students can really engage socially with a group they feel comfortable with and just grow from either somewhat independent to really independent, or from not so independent to somewhat independent. Depends on where we meet students where they're at, and we can serve a variety of clients. But that's our focus on young adults with autism and learning differences as well. An autism diagnosis is not required, but that is the group, that's the social setting we're working with.
Yeah. And do they live on campus, Alex?
They do. They do. They live on campus, and then during the third phase of their programming, they live in the community. So we have an off-campus phase as well, right? And that's what it's all about. It's about an empowerment and integration into the community, into a job, into an apartment. But initially, for the first, typically about 18 months, they are on campus with us.
It sounds like you guys have phases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you get into that?
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's prescriptive, so it's individualized, and so it's hard to put a timeline on each of these phases, of course. But initially, we're looking at bringing someone on into a dorm-like setting. It may be their first time living alone, leaving the nest, right, leaving home. And so they're coming into a dorm setting where we're teaching them basic kind of foundational skills, right, of what to cook and how to shop and budgeting, you know, all of that. And we can get more into the kind of the skill profile later as well. But then phase 2 would be an on-campus apartment living. And so they move into, we actually have apartment buildings on our campus. So then they're like, you know, feeling empowered. I'm graduating. I'm on my own in an apartment now, even though they're still having that supportive environment around them. And then phase 3 would be moving into the community, into an apartment, but continuing kind of some context so we can kind of see, did this stick? Did it work yet? Are you really ready? And we have some back and forth at times with students who are like, whoa, that was too much. And they come back and then go back out.
Nice. So, and it just sounds like everything is really focused on that real time, rubber meets the road, skill building, with the hope of as much independence anyway as possible. For that individual, for that student. I love it. When they're living in the dorm, Alex, what does that look like in regards to, like, is there a structured schedule or classes? How does that look?
We have an intake schedule, and our students come in a cohort together. So we have intake terms. And so a student would come in and take 2 terms worth, which is 6 months of intake classes, which are foundational. They're attending classes and working actually on campus as well from about 8 to 4. It's kind of just a standard work schedule, but it's broken up with classes and then a 3-hour work shift. And so it is structured. And sometimes that can be an adjustment for students as they come in, depending on where they've been at home or in a different program, depending on the level of structure there. So we oftentimes, you know, they need some guidance through that, some adjustment to this like daily schedule, waking up at, 7:38, checking in with staff, working for a few hours a day. That can be a leap, but we find it so great for them to jump in, and the classwork isn't what they think of as classwork, right? It's not academic with homework, and that's not the main focus. It's really like they take a transportation class where they go on the bus, right, with their class and the instructor, and they learn that system, or they take a cooking class, or they take a internet safety class. So it's things that are practical in their lives, and they're hopefully experiencing like, I can see the need for this, and I see that this is helping me right away, right? Because then we get that engagement right off the bat with them.
Yeah, you get that sense of agency, where they're driving their own bus. Not that we just talked about transportation, but you know what
Oh,
I
that
mean.
was a great segue.
They're like doing their own thing. So
Yeah.
when you say classes, what that means is they're practical classes.
Yes.
It's not like they're not taking some collegiate classes, getting gen eds under their
No.
belt. Yeah.
No, we cannot, we aren't certified to teach, educational based classes, other than we do some tutoring and we do one-on-one for like high school equivalency stuff. And then we do college support. So we do have an education that's kind of tailored to the individual, maybe a one-on-one math if they're struggling with some of those like basic concepts that are going to help them, right? Many of our students are attending college concurrently with our program, or attending a technical school as well. So we can support that with our teachers that we have on staff. But the classes I'm talking about are really independent living curriculum, like you said.
Yeah, that's great. So there is the opportunity for people to take college classes while they're in your program, because you can support them there. What I love is that your program sounds very laser focused on the practical skills that adults need, any adult needs, to live a life independently and joyfully. I don't know if you see this. I just find that sometimes we overlook like all the simple little things that we do, like getting ready, like being able to feed ourselves, like being able to get ourselves from point A to point B. And that those are the skills that really feed our self-concept and self-esteem. We know we can do those things and we can rely on ourselves. Yeah. And I think we just kind of sometimes don't realize that,
It's hard we take for granted. Absolutely.
Yeah, we do take that for granted.
You bring to mind a class we teach that's called life systems. And it's a great kind of behavioral approach where we have an instructor who really has taken this kind of concept of systems, creating systems for our students. Because that's what it is. It's they know they have the skills and the cognitive ability to do these things, right? Any of our students can come in and do laundry. It's not hard for them to understand how, but sometimes they don't do laundry, right? So then it's discovering, well, why not? And one of the reasons we've found, especially with folks on the spectrum, is they just don't have that in their routine. They don't have it built into the system. And so they don't have the confidence that they can do it, right? They don't feel empowered. But as soon as they break down the steps and see, oh, if I know that I'm doing this every Tuesday at this time, and I know it's built into my system, and I have a prompt that I'm going to, set an alarm on my phone, or I'm going to hang this sign by my door, then that becomes a trigger for me to have the system. And our students are great. And we know this about people on the spectrum, right? They're great at following that system. So we're talking about life system creation. And by the end, when they're independent with it, they can say, oh, okay, I have this new job and I know I need to change something in my system. So now I have the skills to go in and think, okay, what do I need to change to make it, this is my new routine. So it actually causes kind of a flexibility that is cool to see in our students that learn this skill.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think that's actually really sophisticated, because whenever you look at even the habit formation literature research, it's really about creating routines and systems, more so about the habit itself. And so, how do you do that? And you're right, like our populations, our tribe, routinization is a phenomenal hack. And so being able to do that really can ensure that it's getting put into their life, so that they're living as healthy and as safe as possible. You know what I mean? So that's fantastic. I love that. I love that class. I should come take that class.
I know it's been super helpful. I've sat in on some classes. I'm like this, and we can make that one-on-one too. So sometimes that instructor will be assigned to an individual student who's struggling with a particular behavior, or a particular issue, and it can be really laser focused on like, okay, they need this skill. So instead of just teaching them that skill in this environment, though, I'm going to teach them how to create a system so they know how to use that skill, right? Because then that becomes kind of the macro skill that makes it easier to apply all the other independent living skills. And it's pretty cool to see when a student latches onto it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can just see how that would be really empowering for that student as well. So that's great. Alex, what are your staff ratios? I mean, I imagine they're changing as you're throughout your phases or as someone's in, transitioning into, let's say, apartment living in the community.
Yeah.
But how does it start? Like, what does a staff ratio look like?
So that's a great question. And Scenicview is unique in some of the staffing systems we use. So we have someone on campus at all times, but because we're kind of a school, none of our classes are over. One of the easy ways to answer that, none of our classes have a bigger than a 10-to-1 student to staff ratio. That's the biggest class we ever teach. But then each student is also assigned a service coordinator, and they're also assigned a therapist. So each of them has 2 people on their home team, so to speak, that is really meeting with them on at least a weekly, but sometimes more frequent schedule. And so we have approximately a 1-to-1 ratio if you look at our staff to our students. We have about 55 students right now enrolled, and we have about 50 staff. And that doesn't count interns and other people who would actually, so we actually have more people that are on our payroll and on our staff list than we do students. But how they interact with those is unique. It's one-on-one, but also class-based.
Got it. Got it.
Maybe I need to clarify more. Help me clarify that more if I need to. But
yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about some clients that may have never lived on their own before. Yes. And have the potential for that, but really need these systems to be established.
Yep. Maybe
even need their narrative to be shifted to, I can do this. Right. Maybe the family system needs to see their adult child be able to do these things, therefore build trust and let go in whatever way, shape. It's hard as I as a parent, we're both parents. But as a parent, I can see how difficult it is to let go if I don't see my child be able to do something that I think they need to be able to do. Right. So to hand them over to a program and know that program has got them, that they're going to be safe and that they're going to be building skills that are going to lead to this outcome, whatever that is for that particular student, can be really, really helpful. What if a student comes to you and they really actually need quite a bit of help? But they're not behavioral in any way, but they sure need a lot of what I would call like external, they need like an external executor.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
How would you handle that kind of, yeah, of course, yeah, I mean.
Of course we do. And even behavioral issues, of course we see, right? We're screening for, severe mental health that is getting in the way of the skill building, right? That's not who we do our best work with. Yeah. And of course we're keeping the safety of our students in mind. But our students are going to have issues with anxiety and depression and social concerns, right? That are uncomfortable for the students around them. That's common. And I guess I'd start with what our role that we call the service coordinator role. So it's like a head mentor, honestly, mixed with a school counselor kind of thing, where this person is helping them develop a transition plan, where we're putting the student in the driver's seat and saying, okay, in 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is where you're at Scenicview, what do you want? What do you need to accomplish, right? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be living? What kind of job do you want to have? And then breaking that down into, okay, so we're going to take these classes. We're going to actually assign you to this person because they're great at teaching this. And then they're the parent contact as well. So they're giving progress updates to the parent on, okay, in the live classes they took, we have the 3 programs of live, work, and thrive, which are the 3 areas that we're helping our students, improve in or create independence in. And so they're giving updates with the student. They're teaching the student how to communicate that progress to a parent. They're communicating weekly or monthly, depending on where the student's at in their program, about that progress. And when issues arise like that, we have enough staff that we're able to say, okay, we're going to assign a one-on-one for this specific issue, or we're going to change your schedule around a little bit because this isn't working, right? So we're prescribing it. And the service coordinator is the key to that process. And we really like the word mentorship. Yeah. Because we found that a lot of our students are really craving that and really respond well to that. So we do mentor trainings, and we have positions that are mentors, right? They're just kind of filling in the cracks. They maybe don't teach a subject, but they're there to help a student when they're not feeling motivated. And they just need, to have a conversation or to connect with the goals that they set for themselves. And they just need that kind of centering and empowerment that comes with that. And when we also have actually a program that we've started this year called Scenicview Plus. And this might speak a little bit to this group you're talking about who maybe needs some more support. And Scenicview Plus is designed with actually a pretty intensive mentoring on a 3-to-1, 3 students per mentor, 4 students per mentor staffing. So these are students who maybe are coming from a more structured program or have more needs. And they typically would have failed out of our program because they couldn't quite hack it in terms of like, now I'm overwhelmed by this 8-to-4 schedule and the level of empowerment you're giving me.
Yeah.
So we add this level of mentorship where they still have a service coordinator, still have a therapist, but then they have this extra person who maybe is even between classes being like, hey, what did you learn in that class? Talk to me about how you're feeling. Oh, you're feeling a little anxious about this. Or I noticed that interaction, even socially, right? With the social coaching. I noticed it seemed like you wanted to get to know that girl a little bit more, but you might be made her feel a little uncomfortable, right? And kind of just that level of like on the ground observation and mentoring, right? And oversight. So our students have responded well to this that have been in this program, and it helps them then really engage initially through that adjustment period. And then they can typically shed that layer where they don't need that level. And then they're in our base program and they're able to kind of just, spread their wings and go. But initially, if they need more support, we also have that layer that we can prescribe to a student. Sometimes I'm doing that through admissions where I'm like, yeah, this person's going to need that mentor. They're going to need that extra support because of mental health concerns or because of behavioral issues or just because of lack of motivation. Maybe they have no desire or ability. And again, that's tough to know where that's coming from when you talk about motivation, right? Yeah. But the mentor is able to help that. They're able to really see, okay, this student needs this because I'm knowing them, I'm interacting with them all day. Yeah. And when a student has that program, they're receiving mentorship from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, 7 days a week, in addition to our great curriculum they're getting with our base program. So it's really a cool aspect to our program that we've added this year.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that what's so great is this nod to individualization or tailoring, tailoring a need, meeting the student where they are. And how challenging I think that transition from home to a collegiate experience. Well, that age group anyway, right? This early 20s, late teens, early 20s kind of, that's hard for adults without disabilities, let alone now I've got a lot to bring on. And then I also see this cliff of what happens with accommodations and support. So many times our students are fully supported. I mean, with wonderful comprehensive systems, but the system never took into account transferring responsibility for advocacy onto the student before they left that system. And so now we're completely.
Yeah. And it's almost like the more support they had, the more difficult the transition to Scenicview is, which is, of course, not ideal because we want them to have that support in high school. And our best students are 90% of our students have graduated high school, but that doesn't always tell the whole story because of those supports you talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so our best students are coming in and saying, I did great in high school, but I know that I need this in some way, right? I know there's some kind of deficit here where maybe I've tried to take college classes and boy, that was a lot different than I thought. Or maybe college is fine, but then I tried to add a part-time job and I couldn't manage that, right, with the college. Or maybe someone asked me out and that just threw everything, for a loop. Yeah. And depending on how much support they've had at home or in the classroom or at work even, because a lot of our students are coming in with job experience. But again, that doesn't tell the story because maybe it's a family contact that really didn't supervise them with in reality, right, with a real life work experience. which is
Yep.
great. I get to have work experience, but we're trying to kind of catch that and create a real life, structured to empowerment based program where they can leave feeling fully confident that they can ask for the support they need, but also without a comprehensive level of support, they can still survive and thrive. They can do it.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of filling this gap.
Yep.
That there's this gap where the student hasn't really quite met their potential, or they really need just some extra time and focus and specific application of a teaching or intervention to fill the gap for that potential.
Yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. I think, and you almost, I mean, this feels like a natural kind of segue, which is to talk about the ideal or kind of in the pocket student for Scenicview, where if this particular, and we'll be more general about this obviously, but when this type of student comes to Scenicview, you just know based on your program that's where the magic is really going to happen. That's where the two really beautiful things are going to collide, and
Yes.
you're going to do what you intended to for your program. What kind of student is that?
I love this question because I think a lot about this.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. And of course,
good.
our students are coming in, with the variety, like you said, we'll get more general, but I love narrowing it down because we do see this occasionally. And it's a student who, I alluded to it before, it's a student who has enough life experience. And that could be just at the home or at a high school. It could be an 18-year-old, right? It doesn't have to be, a 25-year-old, although we can do either.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a student who knows the gap that they face. So they're aware enough or have had enough mentorship and folks supporting them saying, hey, you're going to need this to be successful. And we want you to be successful as an adult. So it's not only are they motivated to get those independent living skills, they can articulate and say, I want to move into my own apartment, or I want to complete this school program, this secondary, post-secondary schooling experience. I want to do that, or I want a job. But not only that, but they know, and I know it's going to be hard for me because of X, Y, Z. So here's what I need to be successful. And we have students who do that through amazing parenting and through amazing, experiences with educators in the past who have highlighted and given real feedback to them instead of just, oh, you can do it and you'll be great, which we want that message too. It needs to be an and of, it's going to be hard because of this.
Yeah.
So now, because those students come in and they see, oh, I love this class now because I can see what it's going to do for me, right? I can see why I need that system, or I can see why I need more help with budgeting. So that's maybe the first thing I'd say is those students who come in with that combination of experience and awareness, they just fly in our program because we don't have to spend the time to say, no, you do need this, or we don't have to have them get their lumps on campus. We can just launch, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're designing a campus to where it can be, safe to fail, or we do give them that. And we've talked about this before, Gwen, that term of dignity of risk.
Yes.
We are giving them that risk ability, right? To be able to say, okay, I'm safe to try this. And then if I fail, it's still okay. I can learn that skill. But students who come in with that, they have a head start, a giant head start. It's someone who's cognitively able to learn in a classroom setting, but also, capable of building relationships one-on-one to be able to receive that mentorship. And it's a student who wants the right level of social interaction. Because this also, not only is this the first time where students are going to be living on their own potentially, but it's also the first time they're going to be around in close quarters with as many individuals, socially, right? They're living next door to another young adult, right? And they're learning to get along with them. So students who are so desperate for social interaction and their skill doesn't match that can require a lot of intervention, right? And social skills training. But students who have enough experience to know, I want this, and this is a brand new thing, but I've been taught a little bit about how to interact with others,
Yeah.
That's something
Yeah.
that can get in the way initially, is if a student doesn't know how to be safe or appropriate around socially around others.
Yeah.
Those are often students who I'm recommending the Scenicview Plus program to, because they need that mentorship to, even on like for what to send in a text message, or even what to, because sometimes our students, if they're wanting to date, which we encourage, we need to encourage safely dating, and they may not know what that looks like, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
may not know what is going to make others uncomfortable. So the ideal student is someone who has enough social experience or has enough social awareness to be able to integrate with our great social milieu, right? Safely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, I feel like it's almost like a rocket fuel.
Yeah.
Was it like Scenicview could be seen as rocket fuel, right? To a startup. It's like, okay, well, like I've got the awareness, I've got some motivation, I've got some basics under my belt, and then we're just gonna we're gonna apply rocket fuel, and then like there you go.
Yeah, it's
Right.
just apply skills, and because we have enough personalization, we
Yeah.
can even invent classes or invent skill development that they themselves need that some of our other students didn't need, right? But if they have that foundation, then they just launch, like you said.
Yeah.
And those are our good to great students. Those are our students who come in and they have some independence, and then we're fully confident that when they leave, they're going to be safe in the community. They're going to be able to hold down whatever job they need to be able to support themselves financially. They're going to be able to pursue education that they want. We also can of course serve students who maybe aren't going to be at that level, but we can take them from, we can build that foundation too, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that that's a precursor to them being accepted. It's just expectations for the family and for the student are different depending on where they're coming in with, right? In terms of their motivation and their soft skills and their awareness. They may not be able to, but they may be able to move into an apartment and have a part-time job and still be much more independent, much better off than they were when they came in, right? So it just depends on what a student needs and where they're at when they come in. But I have a soft spot for those that we can just apply the rocket fuel to, and they go, because it's so fun to see, right?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. Would you say, let's get into your desired outcomes, for your students. And it sounds like it's quite individualized anyway, depending on where they come in. But when you think about, wow, so-and-so left this program and we're really happy, even though this so-and-so looks different than this so-and-so at the end of our program. But what would your desired outcomes be for, a graduate of your program?
A great question. And I guess maybe I'll just highlight a couple students that I think maybe have different outcomes, but both really successful, right? Both what we would term like really, and families are happy, right, with our services, and students are feeling empowered. One would be a young man who came in, I believe when he came in, he was 23. And now he's 25, I think, or mid-20s. And when he came in, he had some work experience, but wasn't able to juggle everything together. So he had multiple jobs where he would work for a few months, and it seemed like he had the skills, but then it would just kind of flame out and he'd leave or he'd get let go. And at the end of his program, he's working actually full-time with benefits for doTERRA, who's an essential oil company, right, that's based in Utah around us, and working there, really enjoying it. He lives in an apartment in the community, so he's able to support himself. He actually he attended college part-time while he was at Scenicview. I don't know if he's graduated officially yet, but he continued that. So he was able to make that transition from going to school before, doing school at Scenicview, and then really feeling empowered to continue his education as needed. He has a driver's license now, which I think he had a driver's license coming in, which often our students have a license, but very few of them use it, which is kind of an interesting thing about our population. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the anxiety, it's just the lack of confidence, and the financial side of it with the car insurance and maintenance. But he's able to drive now, so he's of course feeling empowered that way. And so he just really has a setup now where it's like he has some security financially. He's got a place to live. and educationally even has a higher limit. So he can keep this job, or he can say, I want to go back and do something else too. And so that's kind of our vocationally speaking and educationally, I just love what he accomplished. We have another student a young woman who is working part-time now at the end of her program. And I don't know if she'll ever be able to work full-time and do school, or do her social life that she wants, right? So the full-time job might be a stretch for her, just because of some of the anxiety she experiences and because of, some of the challenges she has. But she really took on Scenicview as a challenge and really grew a lot socially. So again, her needs, I think, were more social than this other individuals it was pretty targeted to vocational, right? This young man who now has a full-time job. Hers were more social. And so she had a lot of confidence issues and a lot of lack of ability or social skills, right? And now it's exciting because she's living with a roommate. And so she has this kind of home base to come to. We found that was best for her. Sometimes our students can have a roommate on campus if they want. They don't have to. And we quickly found that with her, she was going to benefit from having a roommate experience because she needed that kind of security of a friend there with her to help her. But I've just loved watching her. I was actually her therapist originally in the program before I did admissions, and watching her grow socially. She now has a part-time job. She's in this shared apartment, and she is attending activities on her own. She's kind of creating her own social agenda, which is such a big step for her. But for her, that's everything. She's happy to have a job and she's happy to live on her own. But really where it's at for her is that she's feeling like I can date people if I want. I maybe have a future at maybe I could even start a family. I could potentially do this. Whereas when she came into Scenicview, that was just kind of eating her up, to be honest, that social anxiety and just the lack of confidence. I see my friends and my sisters doing this, and I'm never going to have that. And so that is another outcome that we really stress. And even independent of, living situation or job, if we can give someone that social confidence, how huge is that, right? That's the fulfilling part of what we talk about. That's the thrive aspect of our program. So again, there's different levels that our students are going to accomplish, but it can be summarized by, living independently in an apartment, having some sort of vocational opportunity that they're taking advantage of, whether that be part-time or full-time, and then socially feeling like I have this confidence to engage socially how I want to. Some students don't need that, right? They have their online, group, and that's fine. But some students are really craving that, and we're able to give that to them. So
it's almost like the outcome is the power of choice.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, right.
I love that.
We'll just put it on a t-shirt,
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just created that.
That's it. For your business development side.
I love it.
You're giving students the power of choice at the end, because, I think that's something that happens a lot with my clients, right? By the time I start to see them, because I only see, late teens, older teens to early adults, right? And many adults as well. But my kind of niche is this 18 to 26, kind of range. By the time they get to me, they've been told a lot of no. You can't, you won't, it's hard. Well, we need to help you here. Or on the other side, maybe they're like, I think something's up with me, but no one's ever told me, but I've always had a lot of support. So I'm kind of ashamed of something. I don't know what it is, but but this idea of really, if I can sit in life confidently, meaning I can take care of myself, and I can, anxiety, I have the resources and the support to meet any challenge that faces me in life, right? The kind of the antidote of anxiety, right? Then I really do have this power of choice, And that is super cool. Like that gives me goosebumps, but anyway.
I love it. I love the way you phrase that. And it's hard for me to honestly talk about our outcomes because they are so varied, right? Because our population is so varied, even with the same quote unquote cognitive ability. Someone has so many different routes they can take, just as any young adult does, right? And I love that flexibility that our program offers. And from an admissions perspective, it's simultaneously difficult because some families will want those expectations really clarified. And I'm like, you know what, this is gonna. So I love that language, but then it's also really empowering because I can say we can give them whatever they want, and that's really better. We can help them get whatever they actually want to be able to choose, and that's actually more powerful. And I do think our program is comprehensive enough in its curriculum and in its scope that if they need budgeting or hygiene or high level math tutoring or whatever it is that they need, we have enough flexibility to make it happen. And that dignity of choice is then they're so much freer to do that. So I love that. It's been helpful for me really to have that conversation because the outcomes are so important to families, but it is so varied. Right?
Yeah. And sometimes we don't know what they can do because they have never had the opportunity to do them. Right. So, that, the ADA just came to their anniversary this past, last week, their third year. And, that idea of nothing about them without them, like really struck me when I was kind of listening to the webinar that they had. And it just made me think like, so many times we don't include these young adults in like what supports are coming around them, what interventions they're receiving, what services, why you take this medication, what that's for. And then, so I think sometimes it's hard to say what an outcome is because we really don't know what they can do without something, right? Whatever that is. And you had like highlighted that earlier, which is, sometimes, yay, it's great that they've had so much support, but now we kind of don't know what they can do on their own. So we kind of need to throw it at the wall and see where it is. And that's the dignity of risk, kind of going back to that. And I think if you have a very, very thoughtful system in place, which you do, then parents don't feel so worried about their adult child, failing, and that, that failure is an opportunity for learning, right? That sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, right? Like that's kind of that idea that it's okay that they're going to stumble or be clumsy or fall there because they're going to be picked right back up in the system and you're going to figure it out and move forward.
And in fact, it's necessary, right? And I think a great example of that is and I can't tell you how many meetings I've sat in where we've tried to develop this over the past 2 years, our internet safety policy and our internet, right? Because our students are going to leave campus with access to internet, of course, right? We hope. If they don't, that's going to be a real hindrance to their empowerment and their choice. And so we want students to come in and have access to internet pretty much right away. And yet there are many students who come in with access and they're staying up all night and they're not attending class in the morning. And so we've really worked hard to develop a system that is flexible, and we start more structured than less, right? And we move, towards less structure, but we have the ability actually to personalize a person's internet plan. So we can say, it sounds like you're really struggling with the choice point of when do I turn off my show at night? And so when do I stop watching Netflix, which, hypocritically, I think I watched Netflix till 1 a.m. last night, right? We all struggle with that, right?
Right.
But sometimes if that's impacting their ability to get up to work the next day, we need to step in and say, what would it look like if we for 2 weeks took away, like just cut off the internet at midnight? Yeah, so now it's not a choice anymore for you, but that's not forever, right? So this is all kind of a plan is individualized and based within the student's transition plan and with the service coordinator to say, okay, are you on board with that? For 3 weeks, we're going to do at midnight, no internet. And then after that, we'll maybe lift that for a week and see how that goes. And if you're able to get to class and you're able to feel like you get enough sleep, then wonderful, right? Now it looks like you're developing that skill. Or else we'll step in and develop like we have content filters initially until our students pass an internet safety class. So we have a curriculum where they go through to learn, what sites and online chat forums are safe, and how to interact with others socially appropriately on the internet. Because that's the number one reason why a lot of our adults with autism get into trouble legally, right? Is these online interactions. And we've had
yes.
of course.
Yes.
And so it's just the balance of, we want to provide this risk, but we also want them to feel safe. And we want parents to know that they are safe. And so I think we've done that, and it's been in a really thoughtful way. But that's what it's all about. And it's really difficult. The easiest thing to do would just be to say, okay, no internet for the first 6 months, right? We don't have to deal with any of that. You can use our school computers to do any work you need to do, but you don't have internet in your room. But that's not helping long term, right? And so it's really, we've created a complex program in the sense that we're allowing our students to experience that, which certainly isn't the easiest route. Our program directors, pull their hair out as we're trying to look through the nuances of these policies. But we hold true to that principle of the risk and of the choice and of the ability to learn on our campus, what it's actually going to be like off campus, right? And in the community.
Yep. And it's collaborative, right? That idea of, hey, let's experiment. Let's not judge. Right. So instead of saying, well, you obviously can't handle this, so bye-bye internet forever, right? That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, okay, like this is something to navigate, because all of us have to navigate, balancing our obligations and with fun.
Right.
I mean, that's life. And so, let's collaborate and let's experiment. Let's stay curious and let's see what happens, but, things like time frames, things like coming back and having a conversation about it, things like having rating scale, whatever that is, that's at least a thoughtful approach to managing a real life situation. And man, I can really relate to the legal aspects of the internet. My clients get into quite a bit of trouble this way, unbeknownst to them.
Oh, I know. It's so innocent often. Most of the time it's very, very, innocent and unintentional. And it's just, they just get trapped in this process. Yeah.
It's a big one. So I love that you guys are trying to capture and address a complex situation with an equally complex solution.
Right. And another one we can get into, we won't right now, but just to the dating policies we have, right? Because of course we want our students to experience social life. And we've had students who have actually gotten married, met at Scenicview and gotten married, right? And it's wonderful. And we also, of course, have students who their whole, experience has been really impacted by a negative relationship that they've engaged in, And so it really is just, that's another one where we've had to look really closely. Okay, how do we manage this? Yeah. And I hope we've arrived at a place that is safe, but also really experiential and allows them, the dignity of a relationship. And of course it would, right? Any mid-20s and young 20s individual is going to want to be experiencing different relationship levels, right?
Yeah, and that experience is the best teacher.
Absolutely.
I mean,
but we need to keep it safe. And
exactly.
It is one of the hardest things we do on campus, and it certainly would be easier to just say, don't do it. And or I think we started, in 2001, I think we were an all male school, which doesn't take away all the issues, but certainly limits it, and so it becomes, but now we're thrilled that 30% of our students, I think that's a pretty good number considering the population, where 30% of our students are identify as female. Yeah. And which is wonderful. We add that, gender diversity in there, which is so great. But it creates different challenges, and we just deal with those on an individual basis. It's a wonderful social environment. It's like college is what we try to make it like.
Yeah. And like any collegiate setting, there is questioning
Yep.
and experimentation, and
Yep.
there's a lot of that. So, I mean, it's great that you guys nod to that and try to have general rails, if you
Yes.
will. You know, we'll just
Yep.
put it.
Yeah.
Not
Another
saying
term we
not.
use is
Yeah. Go
invisible
ahead.
structure, where it's
Love
like,
it.
yeah, like it's not, it's not in your face. It's not, obviously we're not a lockdown treatment center.
Love
We're
it.
not, but we need guide rails, and we need people, and our students want that typically when they're able
Yeah.
to understand. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that parents need that as well. They need, they need that as well. Hey, Alex, if someone graduates from your program or they're going into the community apartment setting and they still need a little bit of help, like it might be just like a check-in every month or, something like that. Is Scenicview able to do that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have a really great alumni program at Scenicview. Historically, most of our students who graduate end up living in the Provo area, at least for a fairly significant, for years, because that's where they feel comfortable. And so that creates a great social environment. And so students can actually choose the level of support they need. And it's a paid for service, but it can be at like the most basic, it's I think $50 a month. And then they're just are able to come to certain activities on campus, right? Where they just can continue that social engagement and feel like they have that connection. But then we have one-on-one services. It could be job coaching. They can continue therapy if needed. So it's not so abrupt of termination there if that's not going to work. And there's just different tiered levels of support that they can get in our alumni program. So we really are trying to spend a lot of time. We have an alumni coordinator who's dedicated, a full-time employee dedicated to reaching out to those people and, making sure they feel like they have support. Because again, our students are graduating with different levels of independence, and sometimes they still need, all of our students are interdependent while they're independent, right? That word is important too. And Scenicview is part of that for many years, typically after they graduate.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because I think that's the reality.
Yeah.
That there is a continuum of support that needs to be provided because that's the reality of the situation. And that's so awesome. That is so incredible. I love hearing all of this. We could probably like go deep into all these little crevices, and that can be another time maybe.
Yes.
So Alex, how do people pay for your program? I'm not really sure about the structure in Utah. I mean, I'm in California. We have a regional center here. I'm not sure. How do you guys work?
Scenicview is so unique, Gwen, in this area too. We were started by wealthy entrepreneurs who started Novell. I don't know if you're familiar with the probably not tech industry in Utah, but Novell was a company, big time tech company, employed hundreds. And one of the founders is our founder, Ray Norda. And they had a son with neurodiversity and learning differences, and just said, there's nowhere for this young adult. Let's start Scenicview. Started us with a large endowment, with the mission that we were to make it affordable for everyone. And that's been remarkable in my position to work with. So our full cost, and so our program is private pay only. We don't have any regional funding. We don't do any insurance. Sometimes we can bill insurances for like an individual service like therapy or neurofeedback that we have and we offer, but that's a per service thing. So really the simplest way to say is we're private funding only. But almost all our students who have come through Scenicview have been scholarshiped. So we have the Norda Scholarship Fund, and students and families access that by applying for financial aid. And then we base it on financial need. And we do have a minimum payment. So there have been folks who for whatever reason, whether they're not willing to, maybe the need isn't as great or they're not able to, they haven't been able to come. And that's always like the saddest thing for me. I'm like, oh man, this is a fit and we can't make it work. But that's very rare. Almost without fail, 95% of the time, we're able to scholarship down to what a family can afford reasonably through that fund. And again, we're looking for a similar level of sacrifice for every family. So some families may say, well, I want a 90% scholarship, and we're saying, well, you can afford more. And of course we need to kind of have that, actual process. and we're approving scholarships. And so we're not just handing out cash to everyone. We're not making it free, of course.
Yeah.
But it is an amazing and unique, I'm not aware of any program that is able to operate like we, just because of the generosity of our founders and their wisdom and foresight in saying, you know, there's going to be families who can't afford this, and yet they still need it. And so we want to be able to do that. So we're scholarshiping people, and that's just a good faith negotiation between myself and the families at that point. And so a lot of times families say, well, what is it going to cost? And I say, honestly, I can't tell you until you complete this financial aid application.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, you know, we're going to make it work if it's a fit.
Yeah.
And so that's remarkable, right? And
yeah.
the lone exception to that, and frankly, that still probably could be considered a scholarship, but our full fee is at $80,000 a year, or about
Mm-hmm.
$219 a day. And we charge that amount for our Scenicview Plus program students. So we don't scholarship them below that, which again is even still rather inexpensive.
Yeah.
And the balance there, and with my business development side, what we're trying to look at is how long can we sustain this? We think we can sustain it as long as we're able to kind of keep growing and expanding, and we really want to hold on to that idea of making it affordable for everyone. It's you spoke to that earlier, right? In kind of the inclusivity in their families that need these services, frankly, more than anyone. But of course, it's out of their price range. Yeah. And so that's one of my favorite things to do, is to sit down with a family. There's a family who's from back east, and just you know, I still touch base with them every month. We admitted their son about a year ago, and just an incredibly emotional and almost you know, almost spiritual connection with this family, where they were really just looking for something, and they knew they needed some program for their son, but there was no way they were gonna be able to afford it. No way.
Yeah.
And just sitting in their office and we had to pull some strings, and with our financial director, I always kind of have to be an advocate for the family. I'm like, no, we really got to get them in. And just sitting in the office with them, they'd actually been able to travel out. They'd driven out because they couldn't afford to fly. So they'd driven across the country, and sitting in the office just being like, we're going to be able to make this work at this amount. And just that experience of being able to accept them. And he's doing great in the program is the best part of my job. Right. And it's just great. That shout out to the Nordas, of course, and their generosity for that family being able to do that. We have a member of the Norda family on our board, and we keep that mission alive, you know, 20 years later. And so that's a long answer to your question, but it really I have to include all that because it's just a remarkable vision and so unique, right? So it's such a unique process.
Well, and I, you know, you're a nonprofit organization, which is another unique thing.
Yes.
when you look at, you know, transition programs, especially residential programs.
Right.
And so I think it's lovely. And you're right. You know, we were talking before the interview about access and equity of access, and how important that is for our clients and our students, because they need more, because it's equitable. It's not anything else but that, you know. And so this is that is amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a joy, and I feel spoiled, right? Because I talk to my fellow admissions officers, and it's like, it's such a different game, right? And it's no thanks to anything, of course, I've done, or even our whole team has done. But it's just a remarkable organization to be a part of for that reason. And it creates this heart where our staff don't know who's paying a few $100s a month and who's paying several $1,000s a month. They don't know. They're providing services the same, and those students are getting the same opportunities when they leave, ideally. And so it's phenomenal. I love it.
That's incredible. That's amazing. Okay, Alex. So I always end my interviews with this question, which is, if you could only choose one skill to empower an individual with, what would it be and why?
That's such a hard question, Gwen.
I know.
It's a good one, though. I want to cheat and identify a soft skill and a hard skill, but I won't.
Go ahead.
I'll answer. Okay.
That's okay. It's okay.
I think the more important of the two that, and I alluded to this earlier, is the soft skill of openness and flexibility.
Mhm.
And with our clients, right, that takes a lot of work. So I'm not saying that we need this as a prerequisite to come into our program, but this is just what makes the magic, like you said. This is what makes the most amazing cases happen, is when a student comes in and for whatever reason, they have the skill of knowing, I have this area that I need to work on, and I have the openness to listen to someone say, hey, remember that thing we talked about with your hygiene? Like, you're doing it again. I can tell you haven't showered, right? And instead of course, that could be a mortifying experience, or that could be terrible. Our staff are skilled at doing that, but our students that have the skill of saying, oh, okay, like, I know I want a job, and I can tell that that's going to make it hard for me to get a job if I smell bad. They're able to connect those dots, and then they latch on to the skill building. So then they learn, okay, well, it's because I don't like taking a shower because of the sensory issue with the water on my face. So, okay, let's take, our skill specialists in that area, or they can take a really concrete skill and say, okay, well, let's teach you how to wash your hair in the bathtub, right? And then it's able to unlock everything that I feel like our program does best. Just teach all those different skills to someone. So I would love to be able to instill that in all our students, and that's way easier said than done. And certainly not, we don't expect all our students to be perfect at that when they come in, but that's how I'd answer it, I guess. It's just openness, flexibility. You understand their own limitations.
Yeah. Nice. Yes. Oh, I love it. I love that question.
It's a good one.
I love that question. It's so good. It's like, what sword are you going to fall on, Alex? It's a good one. Let me just tell you. If you could only choose one, what would it be? I love that. And you're right, because it's a very complex one, because you bring in cognitive style as well into flexibility. And so, and even like your emotional,
of course,
grittiness and resilience to hearing something that could be. So relationship then is critical to establish, so that it can, it can bolster that kind of feedback. So I imagine that your staff is already doing that beautifully. Anyway, so Alex, if someone is so interested in Scenicview, how would they get a hold of you? And I'll put the description in the description below, but let me know, let us know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So my cell phone number's 801-859-5772, Gwen, and anybody that reaches out can get me through text, or calling and leaving a voicemail. And our website's pretty good, svacademy.org. It has a lot of information on there. There's some great ways we've tried to tailor it to the young adult, as well as the parent, right? Because we have lots of visitors, but just svacademy.org, find out about us, and then email or call me, and we'll walk through the process together. It's really an individualized admissions process, because it has to be with our unique tuition. We get to know each other really well through that process, and it's what I love most, is connecting with those families that need the services, and getting them the services they need. It's a wonderful thing.
I love it. Everyone heard it here. Alex's cell phone number. There you have it.
Yep. Anytime.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're interested in finding out more about Scenicview Academy, contact Alex. His information and the link to my website, where I share additional impressions about this interview, is in the description below. Also, if you got any value from this interview, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Doing so helps to get this information to others just like you. If there's a topic or a program that you want to know more about, share it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.